Seems that the furnace has stopped working today. Make sure we're not tripped anywhere. It might have been tripped. That's around where the F is. Down here, we just got AC in the range. Come on, baby, kick on for me. Good evening, folks. Our video just went live. I haven't checked the updates, seen if we got anything. I've kind of had a dilemma I've been dealing with all day. But you should know that we started off with a hike, and Emma and I went just straight off the back of our property up the hill. Told you guys we'd open this video with some exercise, and here we are. My house is right there. So I walk down my driveway, up this trail, over, up this trail, and then up this trail to where we are now with Emma. All right, so future reference, we made it to this pointy rock. We stopped about here. So made it a distance. I came up this way actually. Anyways, we've got a ways to go still, and I can't get any traction. These shoes just aren't the right ones. So I'm gonna call it quits here, guys, and we'll come back with some better shoes in the next couple days and see if we can beat our pointy rock checkpoint. Emma definitely saw something from up there out in this area and went on high alert. She would not leave my side. It's about the farthest she's been from me since we started coming down the hill. Got a random little concrete pad here. Got me wondering if there's more stuff like that out here. I don't think I'll do some like real exploring. I don't think I'd ever seen that. Well, this is interesting. All right, so from my house, we climbed up to about there on that hill. Doesn't look like much from here, but once you get there, it's pretty steep. Got a couple cool clips and videos. Unfortunately, though, I didn't make it all the way to the destination. I'll have to take my angle meter out there one day and see what the slope is like on that hill. But it's definitely steep, and it was covered in snow today. So I didn't make it, and I tried though, and I got some good video, as you guys saw. So then I came home. I headed down into my office, which is in the basement. Was editing my videos. It was a little chilly, but it's cold outside, and I figured, you know, it's the basement, so it should be a little colder, even though it's ducted. And then I came upstairs, and it was equally as cold, if not more cold. And so I started looking around, and the thermostat was on. I pulled it apart, made sure all my wiring was right. Everything seemed fine. Ran through the programming. That seemed fine. And then I came out, and I tore apart our furnace a little bit. Well, tore it apart. I mean, I just took the door off. Looked at that, and I don't know what I'm looking at, but everything seems to be fine. I tried flipping the little switch, and it turned over a little bit, but didn't continue to turn over. So then naturally I started to panic, like, oh fuck, like, furnace went out. We can't afford to put a new furnace in right now. What are we gonna do? And I was like, wait a second, this is an oil furnace, or a fuel oil furnace, or whatever they call them. Let me check my oil tank, which is out on the side of the house, and sure enough, I've only got about maybe 3 inches in it out of maybe a 6-foot stick. So I had to order an oil delivery, which will be here in the next 2 days. Unfortunately, it's 2 days and it's freezing. We're definitely gonna have some cold nights, but we went and scooped up some firewood and ordered a quart of it so that that'll be here soon for whenever this happens again. Plus, it'd just be nice to have firewood around. What if the power goes out or something crazy, and at least we'd have something to keep burning. And then I spent most of my day kind of tracking that down, trying to figure out that. I recorded a little bit of it, but the hike was pretty much just a bunch of me dry heaving and wheezing and complaining about the hill. And the furnace, I recorded a little bit and then kind of got stressed out and stopped filming because I just needed to figure this out. So we're out here. It's about 6:30. I got to go feed the dogs. Then we're going to come out here. And I know I need to work on my harness. I'm going to make my list today of... I should just work on the harness. I keep making excuses. I need to just work on the harness. I was going to say I'm going to do my fender brackets. That's what I want to work on today. But I just need to dive into this harness and make sure... get it where I want it, where it needs to be, at least to start. Get everything pinned on the inside. Hook it up to the ECU. I'd really like to be able to power up and communicate with the ECU in maybe tomorrow or the day after. I do need to pull the intake manifold off one more time because I forgot to torque the knock sensor. And I'll throw the starter in. I gotta find the starter. It's out in the storage shed. On the topic of painting, I've kind of decided that I'm going to wait to continue painting until I get a better respiration system, because even today I'm still paying for it and it's been a couple days. It's been 1 week since I looked at you. No, 1 week since you looked at me. It's been at least 2 days since I've done anything paint or sanding related, and I still feel pretty poopy. But yeah, enough fucking talking. We had enough of that yesterday. Let's get some work done and see what we end up with. All right, so first things first, I need to dive into this. So we're gonna go ahead and cut that harness open. Because we need to move the knock sensor up to the top. Even just doing that bought me quite a bit of freedom. So go ahead and pop these guys off over here. Alright, so this is our knock sensor harness there. Can you guys see that? Not quite. So this is our knock sensor harness here, and we're going to mount it officially down here. Alright, now what that does for us, we're still able to get to this injector clip real easily. That's always going to scream to me and say, hey, you left me unplugged. Plus, if I need to test it or anything, I've got a real accessible point. Fortunately, these three pieces of the harness here need to go to the bottom part. This part needs to go to that knock sensor, and the rest of this goes to the throttle body and coolant sensors. And way out here, we've got the cast connector. See, folks, And that's why I spray painted my shit, because I'm clumsy as fuck and I will destroy everything. Damn, that's heat shrink too. That sucks. Alright, note to self. Use split loom, because when for a harness you're still building, because this non-split loom really sucks ass to work around. Then when you realize you fucked up, all you have to do is just open her up, slide what you need out, slide what you need in, and you're done. Now, all this material is wasted. I mean, yes, I guess I could have went through and actually de-pinned everything and pulled it back through, but the problem with this stuff is it frays so easily at the ends that once you've even taken the heat shrink off or the tape or whatever you are securing the ends, it's not really worth it. This guy, these guys gotta go up over here, you see. Like, ooh, are we gonna have enough? I might need to fucking split this thing off because I do not have enough room to tag that along with those. So. Son of a bitch. Ooh, you know what we haven't done yet that we said we would is we haven't thrown the new valve cover on. So that is a must. A must for tonight. Oh, I don't like how this harness is set up. Catch you up with where we're at. So originally the harness came out through here, around, up, and then I had part of it go over to like the O2 sensor, coil pack harness, a ground, and the boost controller, which is installed right now. And then there was a loop that came up, over, and across the top of the manifold for the fuel injectors, and that wasn't really how I had intended for it to be, but it's kind of where it laid out. And then we have this stuff here, which is the lower and partially the upper harness. You have a speed sensor, that's that yellow wire there. And so what I'm doing is I'm basically just stripping basically all my hard work down, back down to a place where I can start rerouting these things where they'll work a little bit better for what I need. And that's quite unfortunate, if I might say myself, but it is what it is, and it's what needs to happen. So I'm going to keep shredding away at this, and rather than just having you guys watch me from the garage door, I'm going to just bust this out, and yeah. Alright, so I'm pretty happy with what we've got right now. So for right now, the harness comes in, T's, well, like Y's maybe even there. One harness comes up and does O2 sensor, boost controller, coil packs, and idle air. Another harness comes up this way over to the injectors and the knock sensor. One harness comes over, it'll run over, I'm going to do a wire stay there. It'll come under the bracket that I got to make for my throttle cable. and up over will get tied in nice and clean with the valve cover. And then finally one harness that goes down for the starter, oil pressure switch, and alternator light. This should be good to go. I'm gonna start ripping the manifold off because I have to install the starter and I have to torque the knock sensor. So I'm gonna do those right now. That was a sound I don't like. Me no likey. Alright, 2 throttle body lines, some harness stuff, manifold bolts, idle air. Powder coat held up alright. This thing, if you're wondering, this is like a plastic intake manifold gasket. It seals the, good thing I took it out, Jesus. It seals the gas, or the intake manifold, but it also helps keep the intake air temperature down by dissipating the heat between the cylinder head and the manifold. So this is a new product that I'm trying on my engine this year. And I don't really have comparables to do a before and after or anything, see if we actually notice an intake air temp. We're going to go off what the experts say, but someday we'll actually get down to monitor this and see if it actually makes a difference. Oh, gotta use my phone to check torque specs. Just checked in on the video and checking some of the comments. Appreciate the support from everybody. It posted about an hour ago, and one of the comments says, or asked about Michael and the VH stuff. And Michael's still around, of course. He didn't disappear on us, but he does live in Vancouver, which is, it's about a 6-hour, no, wait. It's probably about a 10-hour drive from my house. He's been pretty slammed, hasn't been able to really dive into the VH at all over the last couple of years. But I really want to see him get back into that. So what you guys can do if you want to see some content from Michael is drop some comments down below, but also go blow up his Instagram. It's rogue.drifter. And tell him you want to hear some shit. Tell him to post some videos. I'd love to see him come back. I'd love to see him join me out here. So if you guys want to hear from Michael, go ahead and drop some comments. Tell him you want to see him back on the channel and get some updates. And you want to see him actually turning some wrenches on his shit because it's been too long. But yeah, I found my torque spec for my knock sensor. It's all torqued in. I'm going to install the starter. That's the other thing I wanted to do while the intake manifold was off. And for that, we got to run out to the storage shed. This is I'm still working on it. You got wheels. You got some pretty boys to choose from. I'm going with the blue though. Body panels, wheels, tires. Do I believe my starter should be in here. Hoo. I wish this lighting could show you the color in true light. It's like a very bright blue. Starter's in, harness is all hooked up for the lower section, but we're to a good point to throw the manifold back on and start routing the rest of this harness. One nice thing I found off my parts engine was this with the bracket. So I just swapped out the little sub harness because it gave us a nice little bracket. Favorite part. Got yourself a bottle opener. Alright, so the wiring harness comes out of the firewall over. It splits into 4 looms here. The first loom comes back over behind the head. There's a ground, an O2 sensor connector, boost controller, and ignition coil harness. The next loom comes up over. We had injector, knock sensor, injector, injector, injector. The next loom comes over along the bottom side of the manifold up here. We got coolant temp sensor, both of them, throttle body, IAT, and then it crosses across the front of the valve cover to the cam angle sensor. And finally, there's one that drops down. We've got the speed sensor because I still want my my cluster to work. You can kind of see her peeking out right there. It's the original cluster to the engine and still logs accurate mileage. So to me, that's kind of a cool and important thing to keep. So speed sensor, starter, oil pressure light, so the switch for the cluster, and the alternator light. So a lot of that lower harness, aside from the starter, is just for the gauges. The alternator stuff is required for the alternator to work. And that's pretty much a whole harness. I mean, it's really simple. You know, our key components are all readily accessible on the top. We have knock sensor available. We've got all the injectors available, all the coils available, cam angle sensor. We can set the throttle body. Everything is really accessible. Not that it isn't from the factory, but it's been so long since I've even seen a factory harness for this. I think it comes out of here, and then you got a bunch of extra shit because it's usually over there and comes all the way over. So then you gotta tuck a bunch of that under. It comes out here, and I want to say it runs through the manifold. Might run over it though, to be honest. But in the past, I've ran them under the manifold, which is a bitch to get all this shit out. And I want to be able to tear this thing down real quick if I need to. I can have this manifold off in about 8 minutes, probably less, honestly. So it's take the manifold off. We'll have one bracket down here. The 8 bolts that hold it on, 6 bolts, 2 nuts, and 4 injector connectors, 2 fuel lines, throttle cable. This front harness will have to move, but that's easy. It's only 4 connectors, and they can just set off to the side. And that should be about it. Oh, and 1 bolt on the bottom for the bracket. So I'm happy with where we're at now. Now what I've got to do is I've got to get into the car, and I've got to pin it out and put connectors on everything for the ECU connection, which is these guys here. And we've got quite a bit of extra harness here, so we will get everything pinned, and once that's pinned, it's just a matter of hooking power and grounds up. Well, power's up. Once we get those powers hooked up, we should be able to communicate with the ECU, put a base map on it, and then we'll have to do fluids and everything, and I've still got some stuff for the gauges, but I think we're getting close to being able to start this thing. A lot of the holdup right now is I really need to order parts like clamps and clasps to hold the harness in place and stuff like that. More split loom to clean this up. I need to buy connectors for my alternator wiring. Missing some nuts. Oh, and we still have to make the rest of my inlet. We're gonna kick this thing over, probably do like a longer 45 to kind of bring it out over here so my filter can kind of sit right there. I was thinking about putting a, oh, I guess my phone's about to die. My flashlight just turned off. I was thinking about putting a beer holder in there. Never will happen, but wishful thinking, I guess, is what I'm... So again, much love and much appreciated. And, we'll see you guys in the morning. Peace out and good night.